Hey everybody, this is Michael, and I just wanted to do a quick update for the new PPP and EIDL packages that are being passed in the Senate today and should be passed through Congress as well as Trump in the next week, or hopefully be done by Thursday. So first, if you are a small business owner like myself, then this last couple months or last month or so has really been a nightmare. You had to shut down all your businesses. You don't really have any customers coming in, and that means that you don't have a cash flow coming in. Now, even though we don't have a lot of cash flow coming in, it also doesn't mean that all of our costs have gone down. Our overhead is still there. So things like if you have loans, or if you have leases, or if you have employees, or electricity, or water, or trash, all that kind of stuff are continuous costs that are happening whether we have folks coming in or not. And the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, was a great way to help out, at least keep our employees employed rather than having to furlough them or lay them off. As well as the EIDL loans, which helped just get a quick influx of cash for businesses like mine who are affected by all the shutdowns that have been happening. So today we're just going to do an update on the new PPP EIDL money that's coming in, and hopefully how that's going to affect you and me and everyone else out here in America who need the extra help running our small businesses. So first of all, small businesses have totally been hurt by the lockdown. And although it makes sense, I totally agree with it. For a short period of time, it makes sense to make sure that people can't gather in places when there is a pandemic that is affected by people being close to each other. So people coughing, or people sneezing or breathing on each other can spread it. It makes total sense to have a shutdown of bars and restaurants and offices or anywhere where people really gather, but it's totally not a permanent situation. It's not something that can be continued on because it's going to affect our economy dramatically. And small businesses like us are really going to get hurt by not having access to our consumer base. But it was necessary. I totally get that. And that's why that first PPP money came out, to help to basically pay us off to keep our doors closed. The government saying, we value these small businesses. We definitely need to keep you viable and running. But just right now, for a small time frame, undefined, but a small time frame, obviously you can't do business the way that you've always done. So here's a little money to help you through this process. And all people are very appreciative because we were able to get access to the PPP and the initial EIDL loan, but a lot of folks didn't. For a variety of reasons, mainly the way that the PPP loans were administered. It looked like the federal government really decided that it would be better to have a quick and kind of loose approach to getting money out, just to make sure that it gets out quickly and the businesses who need them can use it. But it also didn't really think through how that process of getting the money out would affect some of the smaller businesses, the even smaller businesses who really could use the help, or a lot of folks who maybe needed the extra help most, but were disadvantaged because of the way that they have started their business or the way that they run their business. So, and also there were also a lot of other companies like Shake Shack and those folks who took huge amounts of money from it, who maybe didn't need it or couldn't have used it in the same way that the smaller businesses who really needed it could have. But luckily, we were really lucky to get that to get the PPP loan, so I'm very thankful. But it looks like Congress is going to give it a second try and try to make it work better this time to ensure that those folks who were missed in the last round are able to get a piece of that extra cash to help run their businesses and stay afloat and stay viable. So Congress has reached a deal, or the Senate has reached a deal today for the PPP and EIDL loan grants with a little extra money, actually a lot of extra money. The original PPP had allocated $349 billion for small businesses, and that was meant to be ran out, and that was actually ran out in just 2 weeks. So I know that when we applied, there was a huge push to try to get it, and a lot of confusion about how it was supposed to be distributed and who was supposed to get it and how you even apply. But within those first 2 weeks, that money ran out. And a lot of it had to do with the fact of the way that it was administered. Again, you could do it online and you could do it through a variety of different ways, but a lot of folks just couldn't get access to it because all the websites crashed because so many people were applying at the same time. This one is another additional $310 billion to be funded for small businesses, with additional $10 billion for healthcare, $75 billion for hospitals, $25 billion for testing, and $60 billion for the EIDL program, and that's totaling $480 billion. Now, when is the money going to actually come out once it gets approved? We don't really know. Who knows really know when it's going to come out? I know previously they had said that the PPP was going to be available in under 4 or 5 days, and for us it took us 10 days after we applied for the PPP to get approved. So it's not always going to be quick. I remember that Steve Mnuchin had said it would happen the same day as you would apply, and that day the money would be in your bank account, but that definitely didn't happen. But 10 days, although it was stressful, seems like a fair amount of time to get through the whole process, and that was from the time that we applied until the time the money was in our bank. This time around, hopefully it'll be a little bit quicker, just because of the fact that they already have all their processes in place for folks who are applying. But one thing to really consider is that there is still a big backlog from the initial PPP that of people who applied but didn't get funded. So I have a small business owner who I talked to, and he said that he had applied for PPP, in fact, before us, probably one of the first people to apply on the West Coast. And in this case, it was to his disadvantage, because when he applied, all the processes were not in place to do it automated, so you had to do it in person, or in person with a banker, and the banker didn't have the correct criteria for submitting the loan, so they had to keep redoing the loan, revising it, and resubmitting it. And by the time he got it submitted, all the money had been gone. So now he's waiting in line, his application is approved, everything is good to go. The only thing that's left is to get the money to the bank, to get the money from the bank to him. Now, we were very lucky because we were on the first wave of people to be able to get it through the automated system through Chase, and I made a video of that. You can take a look at it here. But we did it through the automated one through Chase, so we didn't have to talk to a banker. We didn't have any contact with anybody. We just submitted our information, and then 10 days later, the money showed up in our account. And so in our case, we're very lucky because we got through that process. It was actually faster than those folks who initially submitted it, and it was able to, we were able to get funded before he did, and before all the money ran out. So it's not clear how long this new money will take to get there, but just realize there is a long line of people who applied already, who are just sitting there waiting for the money to get distributed. And I'm sure as soon as it gets distributed, this money's going to start going through it very quickly. And last time it was a much larger amount. This time it's a little bit smaller amount. And I would imagine those folks who are already lined up, plus all the new people who are going to apply, are to go through that money just as fast, if not faster, than the previous one. So I would expect that it's going to be exhausted in under 10 days. Under 10 days is when all that money will be gone. So if you have not applied, or if you're not really sure about what you need to do or what that application looks like, take a look at some of my other videos about what that application looks like, as well as what documents you need to submit. And you got to make sure that you're ready, because when it goes live, when they start accepting applications, those early folks who get in there are going to be the ones who are most apt to get the money before it runs out. And so this next one is for the EIDL loan, which is a grant, and there's an additional $60 billion through EIDL, and $10 billion of that is going to go to the grants. So the EIDL loan was the economic injury disaster loans that were available prior to the PPP, and they're really meant to be a quick influx of cash. Be able to have money like that when you need it, when there are quick spikes or problems with businesses, that they can get the money as a result of like a disaster, so like a hurricane or anything like that. And so when it stops business, it wouldn't normally affect long term, but that little hiccup would affect the business overall. So the EIDL loans were designed to be quick money to get an influx of cash into small businesses so they can stay afloat and recover at a later date. The nice thing about the EIDL loan is that up to $10,000 of it can be given as a grant. So despite whatever you apply for on the loan amount, up to $10,000 of it can be given as a grant, kind of without having to pay that money back. So an additional $10 billion was given out, or is within that package for those EIDL loan grants for small businesses who need to apply for that. Now, normally the EIDL is supposed to be faster than the PPP. I know a lot of folks had said that they got it before. In our situation, we applied for PPP. It took the 10 days. We got PPP, and we applied for the EIDL 2 days before that. And we didn't even get the EIDL into our bank until a couple days after the PPP got funded. So normally it's quick. I'm happy for both of them, having a PPP and the has really helped out make sure that we have enough cash on hand and reserve for our employees and our staff and overhead and all that kind of stuff. But the time frames can always vary just based on demand and the number of people who are applying. Now, one downside to the EIDL at the moment is that the SBA, is the Small Business Administration, is no longer accepting applications for it for the time being. And the reason is the same for the PPP, in the sense that they have a large backlog of people who are applying for, who had already applied for EIDL, who had already gotten approved, but have not got funded. So they've stopped taking those applications because they have no idea how many people are, what the amount of money is going to be once they get they need to distribute out. So they're all full up. So right now, if you go to the SBA website, and I'll put the link in the comments, it says SBA is unable to accept new applications at this time for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Related Assistance Program, including EIDL advances based on available appropriation funding. So they ran out of money for the time being. So once they get the new money in, then I would imagine they're going to reopen that. They're going to reopen up that portal to get applications. It also says applications who have already submitted their applications will continue to be processed on a first come, first served basis. So what they're saying is they're not taking any new applications, but the applications that are already in, they're still going to be in line. And so one thing really important to think about is that you really want to make sure you're hitting that refresh button on the SBA website as soon as that money comes out, because at this point, you're not going to be able to compete with the people who are already in line for that loan. They've already processed, they're already ahead of you, they're already waiting for Splash Mountain. But if those few spaces that are going to open up, once those people have all been, have already been extinguished, have already been processed and paid, then those few opportunities that are going to open up, those are those spots you want to get into. Because I can't imagine there's going to be a ton of them. It's going to be a very small amount of people who are going to be able to get new into the program and be able to get that extra money. So that's really important to make sure that you keep refreshing on the SBA website, and the link is in the comments, and make sure that you get everything, all your papers in order, all your documents in order to be able to submit and be ready to go once you have once the program goes live. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, another big thing that the new package is going to change is to ensure that the right people get the money from both of these programs. And what I mean by that is, on the first PPP, a lot of the big companies, or companies who maybe shouldn't have gotten it, or people who already had advantages of having existing relationships with their businesses, were the first people to get those loans. So, for example, I know with us, with Chase Bank, because we already had an existing relationship with them, because they already knew all of our information and they already had all our contact information, it was very easy and efficient for them to process our loan application through the whole process. In fact, we didn't even have to talk to anybody to get it done. But what they were saying is that they were not accepting any loan applications for anyone who didn't have an existing relationship with Chase. And that's the same for Wells Fargo or Bank of America. A lot of them were saying that they would not allow people who didn't already have bank accounts to apply with them. And that disadvantaged a lot of small business people, especially those folks who maybe are unbanked. I know a lot of our clients who we work with on the health insurance side are unbanked, or folks who started their business by selling their cars, selling all their possessions and borrowing money from mom and dad to get their business going, but don't really keep a lot of money in the bank. Rather, they just keep it in the mattress, or they keep it on the side. And those folks, although they are not the majority, they are still very important parts of our economy, and they deserve to be able to get money to help pay their businesses just like everybody else. And so what the new package has done has set aside specific money for these kind of for institutions that serve these kind of underserved, underbanked, non-banked individuals, and to get extra money through the PPP and the EIDL. So first of all, they set aside $30 billion for the PPP to be made available through federal insured lenders and small banks with assets between $10 billion and $50 billion. And really, that seems like a lot of money, but for a bank, it's kind of not. It's kind of right in the middle or lower middle amount. And these are banks who normally are in communities of color, who are in communities where there maybe not be a lot of banking options, or even home ownership is not that high. So you can see why they wouldn't have a lot of banks in those areas, but they want to make sure that these monies are able to be distributed to anyone who really needs them, regardless of how you do your banking or what banks you know or who you know or where you're at. Additionally, another $30 billion of loans are going to be made available to community financial institutions and small federally insured bank and credit unions with assets under $10 billion, which is very, very small. And so again, these are folks who cater to those communities who probably did not get the money on that initial round of PPP or EIDL because they didn't know the system. They don't have access to bankers that they had a relationship with, or maybe even been a part of that banking community that they know. So that is the second way that they're really trying to make sure that everyone has a fair shot at getting access to this money to keep those businesses alive. So regardless of whether you're doing health insurance or whether you're a lawyer or whether you're a fruit stand, all businesses are important in our economy, and it makes sense that there should be some extra money to help out those folks who need it. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. And for Carelifornia, I'm Michael, wishing you a happy, healthy day.